Hey, what's going on, everybody? Navid is here. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur and creator of Virtual Summit Mastery, and we help people just like you exponentially grow your email list, influence, and revenue. And for this session, we are going to talk about how my guest for this session grew her email list by 30,000 people using social media and primarily leveraging YouTube and Instagram. And her name is Vanessa Lau. And I found out about her actually on YouTube of all places. I was browsing through there and I think I saw one of her viral videos. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit how she got that and how she got her start and all of that. And she's some impressive stats here. She kind of submitted for this one. 30,000 email subscribers in 6 months, basically since January of 2019. That's pretty impressive, right? And she's done this with zero advertising, no Facebook ads. Over, I think it says here as well, over 6,000 new email subscribers a month, which is amazing. And then 200K course launch. That was kind of recently. She did that for her Instagram program she launched. And that's basically validated kind of what she's been doing, adding a lot of value to her audience for a long time, and then kind of putting that out there, and then obviously generating money from all her hard work. So really excited to kind of do this as a case study behind the scenes kind of story of kind of how she did it, some actionable tips here, and everything in between, basically. So warm welcome, Vanessa.
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Navid. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said in the intro here, I found out a bit about you and kind of, got into your content because whenever I find out about someone new I haven't heard about before, I'm kind of, researching. We always kind of vet our, the people I interview for these kind of things, summits and sessions we do for the YouTube channel as well from time to time. And I just saw you blowing up. Like I saw, kind of went into Social Blade. I just saw you growing really, really quickly, which is interesting. Most people maybe don't have that type of growth, especially on YouTube or even on Instagram. But it wasn't always like that for you. It looks like an overnight success to a lot of people. But I think it's couldn't be further from the truth, right? You had kind of a lot of things before that. So maybe you can share, kind of bring us up to speed really quickly to kind of how you got your start there and kind of, was it Instagram or YouTube that came first? I am really curious to know about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are so right that it is not an overnight success. And yes, maybe from the average, I've grown a lot compared to someone else. However, it is definitely not an overnight success. So I launched my channel probably a year ago. It's already the 1 year anniversary since I launched my channel. But prior to launching my YouTube channel, I was actually working in corporate. So I was a fresh graduate that went to business school, went down the traditional path. And I was working in corporate for about a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. And for that span of 2 years, I knew deep inside that there was way more to life than just being in a cubicle. And I know that for a very long time, I've always wanted to do YouTube. And I also think that, seeing all these other entrepreneurs start their own businesses, create their own path, create their own income was always something that it grew to be an interest of mine. So one day, after years of complaining within my corporate job, I finally decided to take the leap. So I quit my corporate job without a backup plan. So I had no intention of going back to corporate. But at the same time, I also wasn't sure what business I would build or what I wanted to create. So I was very lost at that stage. However, because of my experience working in corporate and just seeing how if I don't do anything today, I'm literally going to be in corporate forever, I realized that life is too short. And so I knew that the one thing that I've always wanted to do was YouTube. So I was like, you know what? I have a lot of time right now. Let me just take the leap, start my YouTube channel, and just simply see where it goes, where it takes me. And at the same time, while I build my YouTube channel, let me just figure out what business I should even do. And so that's where it started. I started to create YouTube videos, and one video started to gain a little bit more traction than most. It was probably like my fourth or fifth video that I posted on YouTube. And it was basically me talking about why I quit my corporate job. And I really wanted to talk about it in the perspective of millennial. So I'm 25. I just turned 25. So I consider myself as the typical millennial, doesn't want to work corporate and all that. So I created a YouTube video around it. And because of that video, I started to get a little bit more traction. And then I slowly started to get more people messaging me privately, finding me on Instagram and asking me, hey, do you think that you could coach me on how I could quit my job as well? I'm really struggling with this. And that's when that business idea happened. I was like, oh my goodness, a lot of people are now messaging me, asking me to be their coach because I've done something that they haven't achieved yet. And so from there, I started to work with clients for free, kind of helping them sort out how they can necessarily leave the 9 to 5, getting them that confidence, helping them figure out, their exit strategy for their 9 to 5. And through working with free clients, I also realized majority of my clients that I worked with for free also wanted to start a business. And then that's when I started to test my skills, really see if I could help them start their businesses. And I realized I actually did have a lot of skills in social media, business, brand management, all these things that I learned from my corporate job, from being in business school, that I didn't realize I had as an edge over someone else. And then that's when I realized, oh my goodness, I could be a business coach. And from then I started to create more videos about social media, about Instagram, about YouTube, all the things that I've been leveraging thus far. And then soon enough, I started having more videos really get picked up by YouTube, specifically the videos about Instagram. Yeah. And then the rest is history. I have one video that has 1.6 million views now. And it was just me talking about Instagram. And that's when I started to niche down. I started to create even more content about Instagram. And eventually I was booked up so much with one-on-one clients because all the traffic came from YouTube and people finding me from YouTube. I then eventually launched a course about Instagram. And then that course ended up generating 200K in revenue from just one course launch, my very first course launch that was considered a beta program. With 300 students enrolled. And now I'm at the stage where I'm trying to scale this business and seeing where it takes me. But definitely YouTube was one of the main factors of how I got found. And also leveraging YouTube to build my email list along the way. And I'm sure we're going to talk more in depth about this story and how I was able to achieve that. But that's basically the gist of my journey. Yeah. A girl who simply decided to take the leap, put herself online on social media, share what she knew, and suddenly the clients found her, the business found her, and this is where she is today.
No, I mean, this is so inspiring because you acted before you were ready, right? I mean, you could have had all the excuses in the world to not get started. I mean, it's a very competitive niche. First of all, to do any videos in kind of business, marketing, social media, it's very competitive. So the fact that you also stood out and that you still just put yourself out there, and then obviously some videos got picked up, and now you built a very engaged following. It just goes to show, you gotta get started. Whatever niche you're in, you gotta get going and then kind of put yourself out there. I mean, if you even go, I put out my first video in 2013. I was not as consistent as you with YouTube, unfortunately, but I've done other things with summits and stuff like that. But if I would have just kept going with the YouTube, which is something we are gonna leverage a lot more in my business as well moving forward, then I would have, I don't even want to think about it because there was really not so much competition. And at that time in 2013, I thought, oh, it's already overcrowded. But that was simply not the truth, right? You started in 2018. I think that's kind of a 1 year. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get to really with this is you didn't grow your email list in the beginning, or did you focus on that kind of in 2018, or did that come just kind of, how did you realize the email list building side of things will be very important for you?
Yeah, I started to build my email list maybe at the end of 2018. So I was trying to understand through my content creation on YouTube to figure out who my ideal audience really was. And during the time that I was creating YouTube videos, on the back end, I was also trying to understand and get closer with the audiences that I was attracting, doing really solid market research. So actually hopping on free calls with people, trying to understand, why did you find my channel? What do you need right now in your life? What are some pain points that you're going through? If there was a magic fairy that swooped in one day and told you that all your solutions could be gone, what would be the perfect solution to erase all your problems? And when I started to do this market research, I started to become closer and closer to the offerings that I might give when I start monetizing my channel. So eventually during my YouTube journey, I knew that I couldn't sustain this forever if I didn't get paid. If I loved it so much that I wanted to turn it into a business. And I was like, how can I benefit from this traffic? How can I get this traffic, convert it, and actually have it so that it can sustain me not just as a content creator, but as an entrepreneur? And so that's when I started to work backwards. I started to ask myself, okay, a lot of people right now are interested in my videos that are regarding Instagram and social media and a little bit of business as well. So what are the products and services that I might want to offer in the future? Okay, great. So one of the ideas that I had was launching a course about Instagram, specifically teaching people how they can leverage Instagram to get clients. So I really merged the two interests that my audience had together, and I figured out that was the course that I want to build. Now, I'm someone who needs to make sure that there's proof of concept before I build anything. And I also don't want to waste a lot of time, especially if you're a YouTuber or you're a content creator. A lot of your time and energy alone is already dedicated to producing free content. So the idea of even like producing a course and creating it before I even validate it was very scary to me. So what I did was I started to do lead magnets. I started to create freebies so that I could collect emails. And these freebies specifically were about business or were about Instagram. And this was a way that I could use to validate whether or not people were willing to take the next step with me in order to gauge the interest of my course. Because there's one thing of having someone watch your YouTube videos for free and not really give you back anything in return versus asking someone for their email. When someone starts to act, like when someone gives you their email, that is also a way that you know they trust you enough or that they're interested enough to give you a part of them, a piece of contact information that technically can remain private, right? And so from there, I really used freebies, not necessarily to build an email list at first. It was really to validate my course idea. And from there, I got so many people downloading these freebies. And so I started to produce more because I realized at that point, oh, wow, like this email list thing, I'm onto something. If every video that I made or every type of video, regardless if it's about YouTube or about Instagram or about, business, if I attach a lead magnet to it, I'm going to be able to own that audience. And once my course launches, I'm going to be able to tap into that list and nurture them even more in preparation for my course launch. So the entire time I knew that I was going to launch a course. And so, for anyone who's listening to this, the key thing that I did, I think that made me successful and made me a lot smarter than most people was to reverse engineer the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really what I say to all my students and clients as well. Why would you guesswork this? Like when you can, if you build up the audience, that's kind of what we do with same thing, right? I mean, we do it a lot with virtual summits. I help my students do that and they build the audience and then they can launch obviously something in the back end like a course, a membership, but you don't guesswork this. Whenever I guessed something, it didn't really work out much. So whenever I ask my audience, hey, what do you want? Or they come to me, that's what I did when I created my first program as well years ago with Virtual Summit Mastery. They came to me, right? And they wanted, hey, how do you do this? How do you grow your list with a summit and all this? And I provided them the solution, was incredibly successful, has been running for, over 4 years now, right? So that's kind of how it is. That's kind of the process of doing this. It can be on YouTube, it can be any platform where you have an audience and getting them onto an email list. And I love what you said about the lead magnets. You're testing things by putting out different offers. So you're not just kind of, only testing one, but you're actually having several. So one thing I wanted to talk about here, which is kind of important for the growth of kind of actually getting the audience, like how did you do your first kind of really good YouTube video? What was kind of the main thing there? Then are you currently growing your list with that video today? I mean, I'm not sure when you started, if you were thinking about the list build or that's something you kind of added afterwards when you saw that you got traction from the video.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have one video that literally took off comparative to all my other videos. Like I said earlier, it's a video that has 1.6 million views to date, and it hasn't even been a year since I've uploaded it. I uploaded it, I think, end of January. And I, luckily enough, had a lead magnet attached to that to that piece of content. And to this day, it's still generating me contacts for my email list. I have about 35,000 people on my list now. And I would say about almost over half of them came from that one video that really blew up surrounding Instagram. And, although that wasn't my very first video that I've ever uploaded, it was the video that really showed me, wow, if you put your best foot forward in your free content, there's a better chance that you're going to get more traffic. So the issue that I see a lot of people who create content online, they cheap out on their free content. They have a scarcity mindset where they tell themselves, if I give out my best work or my best advice or my best tips, then I'm not going to have anything to sell. Well, I did it the opposite way, where with that video, I gave tips and strategies that generally people would pay for, strategies that you don't really see anywhere else online. And that was a way that allowed me to, number one, accelerate my authority in the space, but also number two, generate a lot of traffic and social sharing. So what I mean by this is when you produce content that is actually unique, especially in the world of the internet age where there's so much information online that's basically the same thing over and over again. If you are actually very generous in the content that you give genuinely a lot of value to people, people are going to recognize that. You're going to stick out like a needle in a haystack. People are going to be like, oh my goodness, you have to check out this video. This girl is sharing things that nobody else is sharing. It's so refreshing. And then that will allow that video to be socially shared by other people. Then you're going to gain more traction. You're also going to be able to build a lot more trust with your audience as well, because when they see your free content being that great, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, if your free content is that good, I can't imagine what your paid content is going to be like. Then that's going to allow them to hand over their emails so that you can build your list. That's going to allow them to convert faster into paying clients and customers. So that was the main lesson that I really learned from that video that went viral. It wasn't just because YouTube picked it up, which is obviously a reason why, but it was also because it was gaining a lot of traction organically as well from the people who thought that this was a unique piece of content. And from now on, all of my videos follow the same process of me really focusing on what can I share that nobody else is sharing, or what can I give to people that they literally would actually pay for. And that has allowed me to, really crush it in my course launch, really accelerate the email list growth, and all these things by just delivering free content that is actually valuable, not just the piece of content that people say, oh my gosh, I've heard this before.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting how you did this, but how can someone kind of replicate this, and like what's kind of your research process, I guess, a little bit kind of before we get into, I mean, there's obviously when you have traffic to something like you had that with the Instagram video that went viral, I mean, it's pretty easy to just put in, I guess, an opt-in. If you have a good opt-in that people want, right, you're gonna get some clicks to that, and obviously then it's up to you to have a good landing page so it converts and all this. But the hard work, it sounds like at least, is to get some kind of video that is ranking in YouTube and stuff like that. So actually, and then potentially YouTube picking it up, like so more people want it and stuff like that. So kind of walk us through kind of your process for doing this. I don't know if you have a process for kind of keyword research and kind of all that kind of stuff. So actually you get a video that gets some traction, and because you haven't replicated this, I've seen your channel, you have many videos now, not maybe in the 1.6 million, but you still have videos that are getting a significant amount of views, right? And they're still driving email subscribers for you. So I would like you to walk us through this a little bit for everyone kind of listening in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question in terms of asking about the technical side of video ranking and research and everything like that. Now, what I like to do with my videos, the process that I follow is, number one, it's very obvious, but not enough people do it. And that's just simply social listening, understanding who is your end consumer, who is your target audience. If you're planning to launch a course one day, or you're planning to, start a service that's looking for clients, who's that client? Who's that student? What objections, what questions do they have? What are they interested in? What are their fears? What are their limiting beliefs? What are their goals? And you start creating content around that. So for me, what I do, instead of asking myself, what content should I do? I ask myself, what questions are my audience asking? What questions are people asking? I literally have a notepad where I write down every single question, like an FAQ of people asking questions on how to grow Instagram, how to start a business, all these things within my niche. And then based on the question, I'll then link it to a content piece. So for example, if people say, ask a question like, oh, do I need to have 100,000 followers in order to make money in my business? That's a question that a lot of people in my audience asks. Then I'll create a video that addresses that question. And that's how it really ensures that my content is going to at least have a handful of people looking for it, because it's searchable. Now, in terms of the keywords, there's so many different free keyword tools and paid keyword tools that you can use for YouTube. So let's get really technical here. There's TubeBuddy and there's vidIQ. These are the two plugins that you can use to get a competitive edge that you can embed into your YouTube and understand and have a really good sense of what your competition is using in terms of keywords, what's actually ranking. So these are definitely really great tools that you can leverage from a strategic standpoint when you're doing research for content. Another thing is competitors. Look at people within your niche on YouTube and see what's ranking for them. What is actually gaining more views than they do have subscribers? So let's say you find someone who's within your niche and they have only 10,000 subscribers, yet they have a video about how to make pizza that has 1 million views. Then that shows to you, okay, if this person that only has 10,000 subscribers is getting 1 million views on a video that's teaching people how to make pizza, then that's a really great indicator that how to make pizza is something that a lot of people are searching for beyond just that person's subscriber base. So that's really the process that I follow. First, understand the questions that my audience has, or that my ideal client has, and create content that's going to address those questions. Optimize that content even more by leveraging tools such as TubeBuddy or vidIQ or any type of third-party plugin that you can leverage in order to get a competitive landscape, really see numbers wise, how many times a month is this like term searched for, understanding those elements. And then third, just triple checking with my competitors and see how it's working for them.
Yeah, that's great, because I actually use the vidIQ is great, TubeBuddy is also great, and so, I mean, there's a lot of free keyword research tools. I just interviewed Neil Patel. He has a good one actually. Uber suggests, right? It's actually completely free.
Yeah.
You can even do some checks and stuff like that. There's also paid ones and stuff like that. But you can start with a free tool, I think, out there. And I think what's worth paying, especially if you're doing YouTube, I guess at some point, is vidIQ or TubeBuddy. I think those you can get some more insights if you are paying for these tools. At least that's what I've seen personally. But I think one thing we didn't really talk about, I think something you do really well is kind of the way you structure your videos. You're getting really to the point a lot and kind of have that. I think that's important as well. Kind of what you're saying in the video, is that kind of also matters. I guess for kind of the retention rate on YouTube, I've heard is really important, that people sticking around, even more important than a lot of other metrics these days. So, I mean, I guess you can share any numbers, whatever you want. How has this mattered to you, and the kind of the process for you kind of designing the, I don't know if you script it or if you do anything else for kind of the process of coming up with that awesome video.
Absolutely. Watch time on YouTube is king. So it doesn't matter how many views you get or all this. If your watch time is not good, you're not going to be able to rank, and it'll decrease the chances of YouTube picking you up in the algorithm and pushing you unsuggested. So, and the reason why the platform is like that is because now more and more the platform is really catered towards the viewers. Is this content actually good? Are people willing to stick around for the entire video to watch this piece of content? Or are they dropping off after, 10 seconds because it's just not right for them? This is how YouTube evaluates whether or not your content is good or not, right? And so that's why it's really important to preserve your watch time. So here are a couple things that you can do in order to preserve your watch time. Number one, like you said, get to the point. A really big mistake that I see a lot of people make is they spend the first 3 minutes of their video talking about themselves, talking about what their day was like, rambling, asking people to subscribe and like the video. Whereas for me, something that I do differently, my intro is usually less than a minute long, probably only 30 seconds. Hi, welcome to my channel. Today, this is what you're going to learn. Let's dive in. First step, second step, third step, really clear. And then at the end, maybe I'll tell them to subscribe, or maybe I'll tell them to like the video. I don't like to waste people's time right in the beginning, because if you actually look at a lot of YouTubers' analytics, the first few minutes are the most critical. And that's when people are really assessing, do they want to stick around? Even think about your own behaviors. You're not going to stick around for an entire 20, 15, 10-minute video if you don't know where it's leading you. So that's why having structure, to me at least, is really important, getting straight to the point. Not only this, being very clear right from the get-go what that person is going to learn from your video. Not just rambling for 20 minutes or for 2 minutes and not saying anything. That person's not going to understand why they're there. And if you don't give them a reason to stay, then they won't stay. Another thing that I do differently that I don't see a lot of people doing is I structure my videos in bullet points, because I know that that's the easiest way that my audience is going to be able to retain the information. If I'm just rambling and trying to teach something and I'm all over the place and there's no clear step-by-step process or structure, I know I'm going to lose my audience really quickly, because it's not going to be easy to follow. So that's what's really important with YouTube, especially if you're using YouTube to educate. It's really important that it's easy to follow for your audience. So those are the things that I do a little bit differently that I advise a lot of people to do when they're structuring their videos. Now, you asked me, do I script my videos or do I not script my videos? It really depends on the person. So for me, in the beginning, when I was starting out, I was scripting every single word and trying to memorize all the words and all that stuff. But eventually, as you become more confident on camera, as you find your voice on the platform, you're now going to be able to not have such a rigid script. So even for me, after a year of doing YouTube, I only have bullet points, just clear titles of what I want to say. And then eventually I just know what I need to say because of all the experience that I've had. However, if you're just starting out, absolutely script your videos, right? But just make sure you're not sounding like a robot when you're doing your
Yeah.
YouTube videos as well. So these are the tips that I have in terms of having a really great structure to your video.
Yeah, that's really solid because I mean, I was gonna advise this as well. If you are scripting your videos, definitely practice this because otherwise you'll sound like a total robot. It's not gonna sound very good. I think for myself, I would put maybe bullet points or something. I wouldn't like put a full script unless it was like if it was a video series or something that was very important that I'm hitting every single word that I want to say right. I will probably maybe have some kind of script for it because then you can also, I mean, you can still edit it if it's like not a. I mean, that's why I'm like doing also
Yes.
live streams and
Navid,
stuff
can I
like that.
actually add something really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Editing. Yes, editing is any YouTuber's best friend. Okay.
Right.
So the biggest mistake that I made before is I would try to refilm every single time I made a mistake on camera. But later on, I realized what's the point of redoing the entire thing when I can just edit out the mistake? So remember, editing is your friend. And, you know, the one thing with scripting your videos, I also want to be super clear because when I tell people to script their videos, they think that they need to memorize the entire thing A to Z. That is not the case. Let me share with you a hack. What I do is, yes, in the beginning, when I was like literally didn't know how to do anything and super scared to make a mistake, I would actually script my entire video, like exactly what I was going to say. However, when I film, I'm only memorizing 1 or 2 lines at a time. So what you'll notice, I'll have my phone as an example here. I'll look at my script. It's on my phone. I'll like memorize maybe the first 2 lines. I film the first 2 lines. Then I stop filming. I review it. And then I memorize the next 2 lines. And then I start filming again. So at the end of the process, I have like maybe 20 clips that I'll just string together through editing. It's not one full clip of me like trying to remember this entire 10-minute video. That would be impossible. So try to break it down line by line or 5 lines each or paragraph each, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. And as the end viewer who's watching this, if you edit it properly, no one's going to be able to tell that it was multiple clips, especially if your background isn't changing. So that's just a really technical hack that I want to share with your viewers.
I love that. I mean, this is the beauty of doing not, you know, if you're doing recorded videos, which when you upload to YouTube, it's going to be most of this probably recorded, and then maybe you can mix it in some live streams. I think that's what I see some bigger channels do, or even, you know, up and coming channels as well. They're kind of mixing in some live streams, like Benji, you were just on their show, like Video Influencers. I think they're doing every Saturday, doing their live stream show. But in addition to that, they're doing other content as well, which is also searchable, even if you're doing live streams the right way, which I guess is challenging for beginners. But I think if you are doing it the right way, it can actually gain some good traction afterwards as well. And then the beauty of live streams, you don't have to edit them because they're just kind of stays on there afterwards as well. So I think that's good. But what I wanted to be, before we kind of shift gears a little bit to get in also kind of what you did with Instagram and the relationship building there, what kind of, I mean, you did everything yourself initially. You didn't have a team to help you, all this with editing, right? You basically, what gear did you use? If you can just quickly walk us through kind of what you used so people can feel that they can do this as well, right? You didn't use the, you know, most expensive gear out there. You kind of used kind of a little bit what you had and then, you know, upgraded from there, I guess. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, it's funny because a long time ago when I was in, I think, university, like I've wanted to do YouTube ever since I was in high school. But in university, I actually wanted to start YouTube then. And so I bought a DSLR camera, like Canon T3i or T5i or something like that. And for anyone watching, you could easily, and nowadays your iPhone is so good that you could easily do a video on your iPhone. I think in your settings, you can actually film videos on your iPhone in 4K if you wanted to. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to buy a DSLR. It's just something that I did when I was in university. The issue is back then I posted my very first video and it was a video of me like curling my hair because back then I wanted to be in the makeup niche. Yeah. And that video did not even last like 20 minutes. I took that video instantly down after I published it because I was so embarrassed. And then since then, I never touched YouTube again. And then years later, after doing the whole corporate grind and realizing life is too short, and every single year I was telling myself I wanted to do a YouTube channel, but I never had the guts to, I finally took the leap and did it. So when I started again, I had the same camera that I had from university that I bought. And then I went on Amazon, bought like a $10 tripod. And that was it. And as you can see in the back here, I have like lighting. So if you have natural lighting, just go in front of a window. Even to this day, a year later with 85,000 subscribers, I don't even have professional lighting yet. And it was only recently where I started to invest in having a microphone, invested in Final Cut Pro, invested in hiring a video editor. But when you were starting out, I was fine for the first, like, over half a year of just doing everything bare bones and super
Yeah.
basic. So you don't have to be fancy with it. A really big mistake that I see even my own clients doing and just people in general is they feel like they need the fanciest equipment, and that prevents them from actually taking action. And so what's going to happen is you're going to spend so much time researching all the equipment that you have, waiting for it to come ship, waiting for yourself to set it up. And then after you film your first video or your second video, you realize, oh crap, I actually don't like YouTube. Because a really big misconception a lot of people have is they think that YouTube is easy, that it's fun. Let me tell you, it takes a lot of work. It's a whole production. It's like a show that you have to put on, and you have to do the editing. You're doing everything yourself. It's very labor intensive. And especially when you're starting out, it's something that if you don't have enough patience, you're going to feel like it's not giving you the return that you deserve. So let me give you an example. The whole process of filming a video as a beginner for me took like 4 hours just to film, just because I was always stumbling, making mistakes, sweating, trying to fix my hair, trying to fix the lighting, making sure I was in focus. It's a whole 4-hour process. Then you have to add on editing. And, in terms of equipment, you could easily use iMovie, something super basic with editing. You don't need to buy anything fancy. Editing alone could take another 2 to 3 hours. So that's your whole day. And then you've got to create the thumbnail. You've got to optimize your video if you're into that. And all of these things, then you've got to engage. And when you're starting out, you're spending pretty much your entire day doing this video. But then when you post it, you're getting like 10 views, right? Because when you're starting out, nobody knows you. And that's another thing that I want to mention that I didn't mention before, but we kind of talked about it, is creating searchable content. So if you're a beginner, don't start off just doing videos of a day in the life or, you vlogging. Really create content that people are looking for. So that's going to increase your chances of actually getting views. Because a lot of people, you need to get off your high horse and realize that nobody knows who you are on the internet. And you cannot expect your first video to blow up overnight and have thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers. So that's why my biggest advice to anyone who's interested in starting YouTube is just test out if this is something that you're willing to commit to anyways. Because it is a lot of work, and you're going to waste a lot of money if you're investing in the best camera possible, the best mic possible, the best lighting possible, and then later on finding that it's not for you. Pretty much almost everyone I know who's in my circle who decides to start YouTube quits in like 3 months.
Yes, I mean, this is amazing advice actually for anyone listening in. Like, you just gonna kind of don't, even if you have a phone, like a smartphone or something, you can start with that, get an external mic or something, or even just use it as it is. The most important thing, which I kind of getting from what you have done, you were really consistent when you decided to go all in with this. So how are you staying what kind of schedule do you have? Do you have any system for planning out your content and all of that? I think that's because all this kind of plays a role, right? If you're having great videos out there and have good lead magnets in there, I mean, linking that in the description, having that in the cards on YouTube, it's kind of the list building, would you say, kind of takes care of itself a little bit from that? It's kind of the content you kind of gonna start with, because if you have, I mean, obviously you mentioned in the video, hey, I have this Instagram guide here and sign up for this. I mean, if you do these things, other than that, it's kind of just kind of the content that is the most important. Otherwise, you just kind of growing organically from your videos. Would you say that's kind of how it is for you, or how it's been since you kind of started and having this rapid growth?
Yeah, so I think there were multiple questions embedded in that. The first one was the consistency part. And that kind of goes back to why I was telling you that it's definitely not an overnight success. Even though I do agree the growth that I've experienced is faster than most, it's definitely not an overnight success, because with YouTube, in order for you to actually see growth, you have to be consistent. You have to show up. Even on the days where you have a headache and you feel really awful, you got to show up for your audience. And a really great analogy is this, if you don't take yourself seriously, how can you expect your future clients, your future students, your future prospects to take you seriously as well, right? It's kind of like owning a restaurant. Let's say you have a YouTube channel and you're telling everyone that you post videos every Sunday. Okay, that's the equivalent of a restaurant saying, okay, we're open every Sunday. But then when your subscriber goes there and you're closed, it's the same thing as going to your favorite restaurant and realizing that they're closed on that Sunday. Same concept. So that's why being consistent is so important. And in terms of the scheduling that I use, oh man, I honestly think that it's more of that internal drive to like understanding the big picture of why I'm doing YouTube. I think that's a really key thing. The reason why people fall off the wagon with YouTube is they don't have a strong enough why. For me, I see the bigger picture of how YouTube can help my business. That's why if I were to do YouTube as a hobby, I probably wouldn't survive, just because of the amount of time and effort it takes to develop the content. So for me, what motivates me is knowing that I have a business attached to it, and that YouTube is basically like Google. And this is my number one traffic driver to my actual paid content. And that's why I have the drive to be consistent, because if I don't show up on YouTube, and if I don't nurture my audience on YouTube, then that's going to affect my business. So I can see how this is linking. Now, some of you guys who are watching this might be like, oh, easy for you to say. You already have a business. I'm in the beginning stages. I don't see how it would fit. Well, the thing is that even for me in the beginning, that's why you want to kind of take some time to think about why you're doing YouTube and how it really fits into the bigger picture. If you're just using YouTube to get famous, to, get subscribers and care about vanity metrics, you're going to burn out really, really fast. And so that's that piece in terms of consistency. You can also leverage management tools like.
I just had
Sorry?
one comment. I just had one comment on that. I mean, that's kind of the most important thing, right? To really kind of have your schedule. Why your why is so important. Like why you're doing this in the first place. I think you've shared that you're really also passionate about what you're doing in the first place. So you're really interested in kind of talking about this and serving your audience. Of course, it gets easier when you have an audience and you like feel more motivated. But at some stage, everyone start from scratch. And if this is really something you want to do with YouTube or building this online business, growing this email list, you're gonna kind of find your channel. And like one of the main channels, if I could just kind of rewind from me personally, I mean, I love Summit still. We do them. They're fantastic, growing our email list with really engaged people. But the other component of this that I really love is searchable content, right? Yes, there's the blog piece of it, but honestly, it takes forever to kind of rank. We do it now because I have the bandwidth to do that. But honestly, that is hard. That like costs a lot of money with backlinks and stuff like that. With YouTube, we can put out the same piece of content and start ranking pretty quickly if you optimize tags and descriptions and stuff like that, right? And do the research that you talked about here, Vanessa. I mean, that's really is amazing to me. And yeah, I can rank on the first page in like no time, but that could never happen with kind of a blog post. It takes a long time, costs a lot more money to kind of get, because you're gonna do a lot more with it, backlinks and stuff like that. With YouTube, you gotta just optimize this and get, I think it's like within the first, few hours, you need kind of views or something like this, or at least kind of promote that a little bit.
24 hours.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it was for me, at least when I've done kind of promoting some videos and then getting some traction for this. Not as much as you have gotten, but still, getting good, really good affiliate promotions and getting good leads for also. We put our case studies on YouTube as well, so they're very targeted. The people who come from there and they search for kind of buyer terms, and then I show up and people kind of come onto the list and they buy from us. Although it's not kind of this rapid
can I
growth.
add to that too?
Absolutely.
In terms of the whole traffic thing and generating leads, it's so true that with YouTube, you have to be patient. So let me give you an example of someone that I worked with. I was helping him grow his YouTube channel and all that. And we had one video that he did that we thought was going to rank like crazy, that it was going to get a lot of views. The video did rank, but it wasn't getting a lot of views. It was literally considered as a flop, right? And so that happened. And then eventually 3 months later, that video started skyrocketing. It started to actually get leads for his business. It started to outperform all of his other videos. So imagine if you're someone who's starting out and you're not seeing immediate return on YouTube and then you decide to quit. That is very unfortunate, because your videos, the shelf life of a video on YouTube is very long. Okay, it's not just like Instagram where you post a story and it disappears, or there's an algorithm to it where like old content will never show up again. Like you said, because YouTube is a search engine, your content that you produce on YouTube is being searched for every single day. The videos that I posted last year is still generating me leads, generating me clients, generating me emails to my email list. So really be patient with YouTube and understand that it's not something that's like overnight. It's something that builds over time. So that's really important for your audience to know when it comes to longevity on YouTube, and understanding that it's not just a get rich quick platform. It's something that requires nurturing and you shouldn't be giving up right after you see the immediate results.
Yeah, totally. And because I've had I had one video like where I interviewed Ryan Levesque, and that was kind of just kind of regular interview like content in there. But then he had a launch. I didn't promote that launch, which is interesting. I had one blog post review and I had one review on YouTube for this basically, or not really a review. It was more like just a content piece. I had a link in the description, so we've talked about you can do. And then basically I just checked kind of my commission stats, and that was like no promotion. That was one of the most competitive launches of the year, and I finished for that one. The one year I finished number 5 because I promoted it to my email list and all this, but the last year I couldn't do it, so I finished still number 16 for like, there was a lot of people in that promotion. I still got a 5-figure commission with just one YouTube video, which has, I think now has like just 11, I mean it's 11,000 views for a very specific thing, right? Ask method and Ryan Levesque, and then I rank for that and then my blog post, that's about it. That's kind of, I let it just sit on YouTube over time, like just what you talked about, and it kind of, didn't take off right away, probably had a few hundred views in the first few days, but then over time it took off, and then has over 10,000 views, and people search for this a lot during promotion. So that's just another example. But I wanted to get back to kind of when you have this kind of system in place and the consistency, is there any hacks that you're using other than what we mentioned to kind of grow your list from YouTube, or is it just as simple as putting the links there, or anything you're doing that is more effective than I guess what other people might be doing?
Yeah, so in terms of the lead magnets and growing a really strong list, with the lead magnets, you want to make sure that you're linking your videos to the right lead magnets. So for example, it's kind of a no-brainer, but I kind of see it all the time, where you want to make sure that if you're posting a video, let's say for me, about Instagram, I'm linking the Instagram lead magnet, not the YouTube lead magnet, not the business lead magnet, but the Instagram one. Because at that point, like you said, you're getting targeted traffic. And that targeted traffic is interested solely on Instagram, and they wouldn't be watching that video if they weren't, right? So make sure you're really being intentional of which lead magnets you're linking. Now, another thing is, it's not just about just having a link in your description box. Of course, that's going to generate a lot of passive traffic. Even for me, I totally resonate what you mean with affiliates. I post my Amazon affiliates on it, and I've made really good money. I post my YouTube TubeBuddy affiliate, and I've made really good money without lifting a finger, and it's absolutely insane. And I definitely want to leverage affiliates even more after witnessing the amount of revenue that I've generated passively just through that. But with lead magnets, you can embed it within your video. You could easily tell your audience, hey, if this video really was really interesting to you, make sure you check out my lead magnet, or you make sure you check out this freebie so that you can get more information. So that's something that I like to do in my videos. Every time I plug a lead magnet, I'm always referring it to my videos. And not just this is a little hack that I do. Instead of putting the lead magnet in the description box, which I do, I also put it in the comment section, and I pin my comment. Because honestly, a lot of people, they generally look at the comment section more than they look at the description box. And so for me, you'll notice in a lot of my videos, all of my most important links are pinned at the top of the comment section. So that has actually helped a lot in terms of building that email list. Another thing too, if you meet the standard for YouTube, I think you need a certain amount of watch time or a certain amount of views or something like that. But eventually you're going to be able to link external links in your info cards. So what info cards are is basically the little cards that show up on the side of the videos periodically throughout the video. And eventually you're going to be able to also link your website to that video or in that info card and link it to your freebie. So these are the other ways that you can gain exposure for your lead magnets.
Yeah, I didn't even do it. Actually, for this, I've started doing that recently for my cards and stuff like that, because I went back to update old videos. I think that came out, I don't know when this came out, but it has been around for a while. But when I did some of the videos, they was not out. You had these other links, didn't look that good. So now it's pretty nice. You can like add an image. It looks pretty clean when the cards are. But so I didn't even have that in the video I mentioned with Ryan Levesque. It was just kind of in the description. I think I mentioned it in the video, but then with the comment hack that you mentioned is also really cool. That's something I've started doing kind of quite recently, kind of adding all that and having a pinned comment, and that tends to help a little bit as well. And obviously, if you get a lot of comments like you have, and I mean, that must help a ton to have that, because that's kind of where people are focusing, right? I mean, and you probably have sometimes a call to action, even leave a comment below the video, like this and subscribe and all this, and that's kind of what most YouTubers are doing. And then you can kind of get, I mean, I'm sure this Instagram video must have thousands of comments now, right? I mean, is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Really optimize that video. Like take Navid, for example. He just simply had it in his description box. If you actually went full force with promoting something, obviously don't spend the whole video promoting, just quickly like point to it, because then people get turned off if you're just selling your own stuff. YouTube is very like you really want to deliver the value first before you start selling. And that's also something, if you want to talk about with me, Navid, is for the first 6 months I was just giving free value. I never sold anything. I never sold anything until January. And that's when I started to really blow up in terms of income, because it's kind of like what Gary Vee says is the jab, 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 right hook. Like you're just constantly giving so much value, never asking for anything in return. And the moment you do sell something, it's like, boom, because people don't feel like you're scamming them. They don't feel like you're being ingenuine. They don't feel bad because they're thankful for you. And, that's just something that has helped me a lot. But anyways, back to the lead magnets, just make sure, you are maximizing and making sure that people know what you offer, because the big mistake I see my own clients make is nobody knows what you offer if you don't tell them what you offer. So that's something to keep in mind.
Amazing. I mean, this has been so valuable so far. We still have a little while to go to kind of cover the full thing. But I think, obviously, YouTube side of things, I think if you just follow some of the stuff we've talked about so far, if you're listening and watching this, you can get some pretty good success initially to just kind of do this stuff. But I think what you mentioned there is so important, the value up front, really providing a lot of value before even asking for the sale. And that's kind of how you built your audience initially. And then January, you started more kind of with the promotional side, but you still, I guess, built up kind of the email list and all this. And I was interested to kind of see how you did that, because I don't know when Instagram, how that played a role in all this, kind of to build that relationship with the audience and kind of getting clients and all this. So maybe you want to touch on this as well, because I think what I'm always interested in, how people are using things in a system and kind of getting and kind of replicating, because I know you're big on YouTube, right? But you're in kind of Instagram expert. You might not have the biggest following on Instagram, but it's still very targeted. I think that's kind of worth mentioning as well, that it's super targeted to kind of who you want to serve. So why don't you speak about that and how you started with the value up front, and then how all this kind of put into a system and how you did that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with YouTube, I treat YouTube as a platform that's generating me traffic, passive traffic. I don't know who's coming into my videos, but I just know that there's people coming into the door. Okay. That's what YouTube is. It's kind of like a lead magnet on its own, even though I'm not collecting any emails, right? And then once I have people on YouTube, I then tell them, hey, like, I have my Instagram account. If you want to connect with me, I make sure that they know I'm also on Instagram. And then once these people self-select and join me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, I have about like 35,000 followers, I think now. Then they start talking to me in my DMs. They start really understanding who I am as a person behind the scenes. Because at the end of the day, at least for my brand, my YouTube, I'm very polished. I'm very structured. I'm very, professional. But then on Instagram, you see like a whole different side of Vanessa. You see me being goofy. You see more of my character, and people fall in love with that. People feel like they really know the content creator, and that's what makes people come back to my YouTube videos. But I really like to use Instagram not just for that type of relationship building and giving people the behind the scenes, but I also use it as a platform to do market research, to connect with my audience, to poll them and ask them what they want to see in my videos. And that makes them feel involved in my community. That makes them feel like they have a say in what I show on YouTube, because I'm always periodically asking them on my Instagram stories, hey, I need help with some content ideas. What do you guys want to learn from me? All these things. So I really treat Instagram as a relationship builder. And then on top of that, I love to use the DMs to just have these one-on-one conversations with people. And initially, back then when I had a lot of capacity to, I was always sending voice notes and video notes to my audience members within Instagram. And then I got a lot of clients through there as well, because they feel so connected with me now that they can hear my voice, and now that I'm sending personalized messages to them that I can't necessarily do on YouTube. So for me, I love YouTube, but YouTube is not built for relationship building yet. You can't FaceTime people. You can't, send personalized videos yet. It's just not built for that. Versus Instagram, you can call people. I've hosted sales calls in Instagram really casually, and I've converted clients from there. Voice notes, videos, GIFs, polls, quizzes. There's so many fun things that you can do on Instagram for you to deepen that connection with your audience. And then eventually, if we want to talk about more social media platforms, this is a little bit more like outstretched. Eventually in my journey, after having a lot of people message me on Instagram, I realized that it was kind of getting too much. And there was a lot of people that were asking the same things over and over again. And then that's when I started to create a private Facebook group for free where all of my audience have my support, ask their questions, and all that. And now my Facebook group, I think, has like 9,000 people in it. And I know it's super targeted. These people came because they want to be with me. These are like my people. So it's kind of like as close as I can get with an email list. And then eventually I also have my email list as well, which I build primarily through YouTube, but I also, shout it out in my Instagram and in my Facebook. So I'm just like leveraging these 3 key platforms to grow my list, to grow my impact, influence, and income.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, actually, one thing I wanted to ask around this, like with the YouTube, you said you started that kind of about a year ago from the time we recording this in 2018, the summer of 2018, I guess. And did you have the Instagram at the same time, or did you focus first on YouTube hardcore and then you kind of, okay, Instagram sounds like a great platform for me, and then you started it, or was it both at the same time?
Yeah, it's actually the opposite. So I actually started on Instagram first when I was revving up to launch my channel. So on Instagram, I was posting a lot about like, business, personal development, mindset, all these things within my posts. And then I was also kind of giving people behind the scenes on my YouTube videos, or that I was starting a channel at least. And this is also where I like to spend some time doing social listening and like doing community engagement, connecting with people that I think would be my ideal audience, and really understanding what content that they'd like to see. And then that's when I started to go on YouTube. So I felt like I had a good handle. I knew how to use Instagram properly. I felt like it was clear on what direction I was headed with that. And then I started to do YouTube. And I was simultaneously kind of growing both platforms at the same time. On my YouTube, I would shout out my Instagram. On my Instagram, I would shout out my YouTube. And initially, it was my Instagram that was building my YouTube. So for a very long time, all the traffic that came to my YouTube was from my Instagram. But then it got to a point where my YouTube outgrew my Instagram, and now it's my YouTube generating the traffic to my Instagram. So it's kind of cool if you are smart with leveraging these platforms, because they just grow each other.
So awesome. And can you, like, I know you have a lot of content. I'm going to link that up below as well, like to your YouTube channel, where people can actually check out some kind of tutorials. On Instagram, you have some great tips there as well. But just for the people on here, do you have any tips like how you actually grew your Instagram? Because you mentioned that drove traffic to your YouTube, so I can assume that you could also, if you had a lead magnet occasionally, you could also drive traffic there. I'm sure you're doing this today for like Instagram stories and from posts as well, so or from the bio and all this kind of stuff, you're driving traffic as well from it. But initially, how did you actually build that up? Do you have a few tips for people where they should get started if they want to grow their Instagram following? And I know you have a program on this and you talk a lot about it as well.
Yeah, in my program, we go way in depth in terms of Instagram optimization. But there's one thing before we start talking about growing on Instagram is, especially, I'm assuming a lot of people who are watching this are also interested in starting a business, or you already have a business. If your vanity metrics aren't translating into sales, then you really need to reevaluate your strategy. With Instagram, in a world where everyone buys followers, buys likes, it's all fake. And so the only real tangible thing you have is sales. And so don't feel like, oh, if I don't have 100,000 followers, then, I'm never going to make money in my business. I was already, even with YouTube, even before I had 1,000 subscribers, I was already getting clients and having clients pay me for my services. So I just want to make it really clear that vanity metrics does not equal sales. So let's just get that out of the way first. And that's why in my program, let's say, I focus a lot about how to build an actual tribe, actually how to build loyalty. I'm sure you've heard of 1,000 true fans, like making sure that even if you don't have 100,000 followers, that the followers you do have are probably your biggest advocates and are willing to share your stuff, are willing to buy your products, are willing to advocate for you, promote you, are your brand ambassadors, will always go to see your YouTube videos. If you tell them to, go somewhere, they'll go there because they trust you and all that stuff. So really focus your efforts on, instead of growing, to actually nurturing within Instagram. So that means every time you have a follower come in and you check their profile and they seem like someone who's, a perfect fit for your community, DM them. Okay, send them a voice note. Say, hey, I checked out your profile. Like, this was awesome. I love what you posted here. All these things. Because what I found and how I grew my Instagram was exactly that. I was really focused on having these one-on-one connections. And because I was doing that and giving people special treatment and all that, it's something that not a lot of people do on Instagram. And so what would happen is these people would share my profile in their story and be like, oh my gosh, I met this new girl on Instagram and she teaches social media. She's so nice. She sent me a voice note. Like, I kid you not. I have so many people, especially back then and now, that just share my profile and are my promoters that I don't even have to pay for. And that's just a simple act of caring about people. Yeah. And so there's that piece that I really want to emphasize. And another thing too is why I grew my Instagram really quickly, or grew my YouTube really quickly, or grew my Facebook group really quickly, is really focusing on treating your current audience like gold. So what this means is on Instagram, I would do free trainings live. Or I would do free live trainings on Instagram, free live trainings on Facebook, and really give a lot of value that's super exclusive. And therefore, people outside, they'll see that and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I need to follow this account. They're giving away so many free values. I have to stick around. So it's really about the quality that you give. And if you focus on, building the current relationships, I guarantee you're going to eventually grow, because other people see that and they want to join that community. You gotta create FOMO, fear of missing out from other people.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's one example of a training you provided your audience on Instagram, or like that was like more exclusive?
Yeah. So what I do sometimes on my Instagram is I'll host Q&As. So on live, it's really simple. Now, Instagram, you can even invite your audience, kind of like what we're doing right here, Navid, but obviously not as high res and high tech, but you can easily invite your audience to hop on live with you and answer their questions. So sometimes I'll do that. I've done that a couple of times where I'll just host a Q&A session and I'll be like, hey guys, today I really want to talk to you guys about how I quit my corporate job, all these things. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll add you on, and like, let's do a free coaching session right here. And then that's not just going to benefit the person who's getting that free advice from you on that Q&A session, but it's benefiting all the other people that are watching that live. And then eventually, if you make it a habit and you say every Tuesday or every Sunday, then you're conditioning your audience to join you, to expect things from you, and to want to participate. And so that's one really effective way. Now, if you don't have the audience yet, and let's say, because a lot of people tell me this, they'll be like, oh, it's easy to use for you to say you already have the audience. I have like 10 followers and it's my mom and my grandma. What do I do? Well, that's where you can look into collaborating with other people within the same niche as you, or that have this similar following count. You can literally join together to do an interview on Instagram Live. And this is what I've done with other people. And that not just because when you hop on an interview with someone in Instagram Live, it not only sends a notification to your audience, but it sends a notification to their audience. And both audiences are watching the same interview. And you're going to be able to grow your reach by collaborating with the right people as well and tapping into their audiences. And the amazing thing with Instagram is they really prioritize lives. And the moment you hop on live, whether it's solo or whether it's duo, literally everyone gets a notification. Very similar. It's very similar to kind of like building an email list. When you have emails and you send out an email, every single person on your email list gets a notification. There's no algorithm to it,
Let me ask you this, because I didn't even know, haven't checked, but is that something they came out with? I don't know when they come out with this, but before you couldn't do interviews on Instagram, right? Now you can do it, or can you bring, so basically you invite someone, and it's like the Facebook, right? Facebook Live, I think you can actually bring someone on now with a native release. That kind of what Instagram, Facebook obviously own Instagram, so they added this feature on Instagram too. Is that kind of how they did it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, in the beginning, I didn't really notice this function until like maybe the past few months. In the beginning, it was just me hopping on live. Live was always a thing. I was always hopping on live, just telling people, my journey, documenting my journey. I think that another reason what makes me very different, perhaps, is because I'm in a sweet spot where my audience still feels like I'm accessible. And, let's talk about this a little bit. So sometimes when you are an influencer, you're a content creator, or even if you're a business owner, eventually as you scale, you kind of end up going into this like superstar status, kind of like the Gary V's, the Tony Robbins, those people of the world. And the connection with the audience is not as strong because you're kind of so high up that your audience feels like you're a little bit unattainable. And that's why there's such a huge benefit of being a beginner, of being someone who's like just in the trenches as well, because your audience will resonate with that a lot more. I actually have clients who've decided to work with me instead of working with other coaches back then when I was starting that were much bigger than me, because they felt like they could relate to me, that they could connect with me. And they feel like, I feel like you just started your journey, and I feel like everything is so fresh to you that I think that you can provide even more value to me and more understanding to me versus the superstar coach that charges like 10 times more.
Yeah.
So there's a huge benefit of being a beginner. You just need to have the confidence first, because the biggest mistake that beginners make is having imposter syndrome and feeling like they're not an expert enough. And then they stop themselves from giving value, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing.
I agree with that. Actually, one thing around this, actually, that's kind of how I think you can keep doing this. Like, obviously, it takes a while to get to, most people are not in the Tony Robbins status or any like, I think some people, here's the mistake people make actually when they are getting some success. I think that's when they think they have achieved everything there is, right? And even though they are maybe just kind of should be more approachable, I think anyone should be kind of, you cannot help everyone, but I think within your program, if someone reaching out to you, try to do something for them. It's going to just benefit you afterwards. I'm always trying to be there for my students and clients, and that's why we have so many case studies, because I'm more like a friend to my students. Right? Of course, they paid me to be part of the program and all this, but I can just ping them on Facebook or whatever, Instagram or whatever I'm doing, and just, hey, do you have time to come on for this live stream we are doing for this launch or whatever it is? And it benefits me, obviously, but then because I did so much for them initially. So I just wanted to share that here. So yeah, back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, relationship is key on social media. Like, honestly, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday. The blueprint to success is very clear. It's a very clear roadmap. Every single guru or every single, 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure person is going to tell you the exact same roadmap. But the one thing that people lack is the patience. It's everything that's not outside of strategy. Okay. It's the mindset. It's the ability to be humble. It's the ability to connect with people, to actually understand the concept that you have to give before you take. A lot of people don't understand this concept, which is crazy to me, but it's a thing. And so it's the blueprint to success is not that hard. You just got to make sure that you've mastered that mindset piece, that you know what you're doing. You have a strong why. It sounds really fluffy, but I see it time and time again, especially having experience working with clients. For me, as someone who's worked with, a good number of clients and a good number of students, the people who excel in my programs or the people who really excel in their careers are the ones who really take ownership of their success, right? They're the ones that are kind of, I don't really like to use the word hustling, but like they're really taking full responsibility for their business, full responsibility for whatever they're trying to create. Versus the other portion of people who are still lagging around, kind of not having a big enough, like not as big of a transformation. These are the people that have the excuses, the people who have problems but don't necessarily fix them and let the problems define them. And it's funny because the person A who's had a massive transformation versus person B who doesn't have a significant amount of transformation, they were given the same roadmap. Yeah. It's how you handle that roadmap that matters, that determines whether or not you'll be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. This is so good. It's been so good. I actually had one question. We've covered a lot of video here. I think that's kind of where I would also, that's kind of what it sounds like. Video, every platform is pushing more video. Like, YouTube was obviously talked about that a lot, but even Instagram, which started as a platform for kind of posting photos, now they're going all in video. Like a few years has been like that with stories. They have IGTV and, the live streams you can do there, which is really cool, right? But I think, do you combine, I think you do that. You have a solid system. So these you can kind of do, obviously you can plan the live streams and all that you're doing, but that's kind of like you go live, you plan it every Saturday or whatever. I'm going live on Instagram to my audience. Hey, I'm doing this. But the other things you're doing with the posts, that's kind of pre-scheduled, predefined, or talk to that a little bit, kind of how you've done this. I know we didn't get into a ton of it, hashtags, but I can link up if you have some resources around this. I can definitely post some below here as well if people want to kind of explore more how they can grow on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, Instagram is really growing into a platform where there's so many different vehicles that you can deliver content. You can deliver it statically on your posts. You can do it stories, lives, IGTV now, so many different things. You can do interviews, FaceTime, all these literal things that you can do on Instagram, which is really cool. Now, for my feed posts, yes, I schedule those. Those are a little bit more of like curated pieces of content, because even for me, I think the feed is still important because it's kind of like your social media resume. It's the first thing that people's going to see. It's the first impression that someone has is looking at your feed. And for me, it's important that the feed at least is still kind of somewhat organized, tells the story that I want to tell, portrays me in a way that I want to portray. So I make sure that I use scheduling apps like Later, Hootsuite, Sprout Social, Iconosquare, whichever one you want to use, doesn't matter, to plan out the feed, and I schedule it out. Now, in terms of the captions, some people schedule out the captions. Sometimes I'll schedule it out, but other times I will just, write it organically, because I feel the captions that perform the best for me are the ones that truly like come from the spur of the moment where I just want to express something that's really important. So it really depends on the captions. But feed post is definitely, out of all the things that I do on Instagram, is the most pre-planned. Okay. Then on stories is very sporadic for me. It's kind of like my way of showing my true personality, showing people what I'm doing, what I'm eating, what I have in mind. I even share like rants. Like sometimes I'll get upset at something and then I'll just like rant to my audience and see how they react and kind of start conversations there. I love leveraging stories in a sense where I think it's really important to be active on stories at least every day if you want to grow. And the reason for this is because how the Instagram algorithm works now is it's not just interest, it's interest based, right? So it's not just, is it because you have a big account that you're showing up on people's pages? Is it because you have, a verified account that you're showing up more? No, it's determined and whether or not that audience member has interacted with your account, if they've ever liked your post, if they've ever DM'd you and stuff. And so if you're increasing your exposure on stories, it's going to be a lot easier for you to have people reply back to your stories and have Instagram see that and being like, oh, wow, okay, so Vanessa's account is something that Navid likes to connect with, right? So I like doing more Instagram stories because data shows that more and more people are leveraging stories or on stories more than they are on feed posts. And with stories, now you can do quick reacts. You can easily, comment on a story versus commenting on a feed post. And once someone quick reacts to you or comments on your stories, that counts as an interaction, right? And so that's going to favor you in the algorithm and have your posts show up a lot better to that person who's quick react or who has commented on the story. So story for me is something that I prioritize doing every single day versus feed posts. I do like maybe twice or 3 times a week, let's say, and schedule that in advance. And then when it comes to lives, that's when it's like the true authentic me. It's like me really wanting to have conversations, answer questions, involve my audience in a whole nother level and all that. And then when it comes to IGTV, I personally need to be on IGTV more, but I'm also someone who is very, very careful of not spreading myself too thin on too many platforms. So like I said earlier in this interview, you'll see that how I grew was kind of one platform at a time. It was Instagram first, then YouTube, and then YouTube and Instagram at the same time. And then afterwards, starting the Facebook group and everything. So I like to kind of master one thing at a time before I stretch myself out too thin. But definitely, even for me, Instagram TV is something that I want to explore in the future in terms of creating more bite-sized curated content that's less than 10 minutes long.
Yeah. I know it would be hard to choose for you, but like if you could pick, I guess, just one, which one would it be to kind of go all in on at the start? I mean, I know you kind of started now with Instagram. I mean, it will be very difficult, but I think for people watching, so they kind of get an idea, because I think YouTube can work pretty much for, I guess, any market. Same with Instagram in most cases, right? So it's kind of a little bit hard to choose which one. I think it's definitely more effective than just starting a Facebook fan page, or every business should have one at some point. It's just easier probably to just get more leverage on YouTube or Instagram. So which one would you say is the best one to get going with?
Good question. Well, I would say YouTube, because YouTube is kind of like a search engine. So you're guaranteed that you're going to get some traffic from people who don't know you and everything like that, versus Instagram. Most people, once they follow you, they're kind of still in their bubble. It's more about an instant gratification type of platform, which is why I'm very, very careful of saying, YouTube is the traffic driver, okay? But Instagram is the relationship builder. If you are someone who's absolutely starting out and you need to build traffic, then make sure you start with YouTube then. But also understand that YouTube is a lot harder to commit to, and it's a lot harder to produce the videos. And you've got to make sure that you're very intentional with your content and you are doing searchable keywords, your titles are optimized, and all of that. And your production level is, decent in a sense where it's not just you in the dark, like underneath the sheets trying to do a YouTube video in secret. Like it still has to be something that's professional. And so that's why it's hard for me to answer your question, because even though I say YouTube is really great, just like it should be something that is strategically would benefit your business more. Many, like 95% of people will not keep up with it because they don't have the patience.
That's a really good answer, because I would have guessed you would say that. Although, I mean, you have an Instagram course and all this. I mean, you're doing really well with both platforms. But I think it makes sense. YouTube is definitely it's harder to kind of keep up with, as you said. It's also the barrier to entry, especially if you want to do it well, is a little bit higher. With Instagram, you can kind of, ease into it. You can do this kind of go live. I mean, it disappears also on the stories. It's kind of some benefits of doing that as well. So I think that's an easier platform to just get started. But I guess you're not getting the SEO. You're not getting the SEO benefits and the organic growth as much from that. Although if you're doing it well for some time, I'm sure you can have posts that kind of go a little bit viral on Instagram too, and then you can kind of get quite good traffic there as well. But I wanted kind of to wrap up with this one. I mean, do you have any final words to everyone, or do you have anything else you wanted to comment on around this?
If I could actually just quickly change the answer that I just gave, if you are someone who is a little bit camera shy, you don't really know what your voice is yet, you don't really know what your concept is yet, I actually think Instagram is probably a better form to start in the beginning, because for me, I'm really thankful that I started with first, because I was able to hop on stories, to hop on live, really get the experience quickly on how to show up on camera, how to communicate effectively to an audience. And then that helped me with my confidence on YouTube, because on Instagram, it takes 2 seconds to do a story, versus on YouTube, you've got to put a lot more sweat equity in creating just one piece of content. Whereas on Instagram, you can create multiple pieces of content. And that's why even for me, when I created my course, I was like, oh shoot, I'm kind of really good at both platforms. Which one should I do first for my audience in terms of a course offering? And I chose Instagram because I know for my students, it's going to be the easiest platform for them to get started on and see results on, and also to dominate on. And then YouTube can be something that's the next step. So, I'm sorry to rescind my question, my answer.
No worries.
But if you are really someone who's starting out and you're struggling, Instagram is definitely the platform to choose. If you want to at least get practice and even see if this is something that you want to do and get proof of concept before you start spending all that time, money, and energy into YouTube.
Yeah, awesome. Do you have any other final words for everyone watching, listening into this session? I mean, I know if you're on here, definitely interested in this, I think you're definitely inspired. Leave a comment below as well if you have kind of any big takeaways. I'm sure, I'm gotten tons of takeaways from this, kind of from what just Vanessa shared, like what you should be doing on kind of Instagram and YouTube, and what I can leverage more myself to grow and just be more consistent with it. But I think for anyone watching here, do you have any final takeaways or anything you want to share, any final words, Vanessa, you want to share with everyone here?
Yeah, we talked a lot. This was probably the most jam-packed interview that I've ever done. We talked about email lists, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the social media platforms. The biggest thing is just to start and to make sure that you are prioritizing social listening. Social listening has gotten me so far in terms of just listening to what my audience was wanting and listening to the conversations that are happening, and seeing how you can actually become a solution to the problems that people have. And by doing that, you can actually create content around it. And then you're going to start to position yourself as someone of value. Now, if you want to learn more about how to build your YouTube, how to build your Instagram, your influence on social media while also building a business, my YouTube channel has a lot of free content on that. So I'd love to see you there. Hop on over. So much free content for you. So yeah, best of luck, guys, on dominating on social media, getting those clients, building that email list, and creating that impact that you want to make.
Awesome, and that's the best place to kind of link below as well, you would say. I mean, people can click through there as well too. I mean, you have a ton of resources on your YouTube. Obviously, I'll link up your Instagram as well, so people can check out what you're doing there as well. Your website, obviously, is that vanessalau.co, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Yeah, okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. So we link all that. Leave your biggest takeaways. This has been an amazing session. We have obviously gone really in depth into kind of what Vanessa did, kind of behind the scenes of how she went from zero basically to over, now I think she shared 35,000 email subscribers at a time we are recording this. I think when this one goes live, probably around the 40-some thousand, 50,000 if you keep up with the same kind of 6,000, 7,000 email subscribers a month list growth. But I mean, it's amazing, right? So feel inspired by this. I think it's not every day you see someone who's growing quickly, but again, you heard from her story, she's basically had a lot of value up front. She was kind of giving that away. So whatever platform you choose to focus on, I think just that's kind of that's what I see with a lot of content creators, online creators in general. Whether that's summits or YouTube channel or Instagram, you're gonna be consistent for quite some time, and then you're gonna take off from there. So thanks so much, Vanessa, for coming on here. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.